Hello guys, what's up? How are you all doing? I hope you are doing great and amazing. Book of the day, Harvard Business Review, Emotional Intelligence, Resilience. So, emotional intelligence, I've talked about it before and, in a video from 26 skills actually that you need to develop in order to be successful in life and business. Okay, so this book is very, very good. Okay, and we're gonna develop resilience because it's what makes people bounce back easily after being hit. So, this book, from a series for Harvard Business Review on emotional intelligence, a series aimed at making you more effective and powerful in the workplace. It's a must read for anyone who seeks to succeed in the corporate world. Life doesn't get easier or more forgiving. We get stronger and more resilient. Steve Maraboli, Life, the Truth, and Being Free. So let's read it out, okay, and listen to the book at the same time because it's really, really helpful, and I hope we're gonna enjoy it together. So let's dig in.
Chapter 1. Resilience makes the difference between those who give up and those who bounce back. Have you wondered why people go through the same kind of hardship in life, but some survive it and later thrive, while another set doesn't make it through the same difficulty? For instance, some people throw in the towel on life after going through a terrible divorce or the loss of a loved one, while others find a way to pull themselves through the pain and emerge stronger. What really makes the difference between these two sets of people? Psychologists have found the answer. It is that some people have more resilience than others. Since the Holocaust, studies of resilience and how it works have been ongoing. There are a few theories that link resilience to genetics, meaning some people can't be resilient because it isn't part of their makeup. These theories sure have elements of truth, but latest studies have found that resilience is a trait every one of us can learn and improve upon. In the course of her research on this subject, Diane Cowtu found that there are 3 characteristics that resilient people possess. If you imbibe them, you can become resilient yourself. Before we delve into what those traits are, it's worthy of note that imbibing 1 or 2 of these traits can make you resilient to harsh conditions, but having all 3 equips you even more. Resilience is the only key to overcoming tough times. Optimism alone is insufficient. The following are 3 characteristics of resilient people. Staunch acceptance of reality. Resilient people don't live in delusionment. They accept reality for what it is, and that's why they can find a way around it. Until you accept your reality, you will never be able to bring yourself to a mental state that will allow you to figure out a way to maneuver your path through the problem. Imagine you're the CEO of a company that is going bankrupt. Until you accept the reality on the ground and communicate it to your partners and subordinates, you will never be able to save your organization from crashing. Believe life is meaningful. It's amazing how our belief system determines the results our lives produce. Sometimes circumstances can hit you so hard that you begin to think all you've ever believed in your life was a lie. Don't let this happen to your views on life. The day you start seeing life as meaningless is the day you begin to lose any strength to fight through tough times. Resilient people and organizations know deep in their hearts that life has meaning, and this belief helps them look beyond any difficulty they may be facing momentarily. An uncanny ability to improvise. This is the 3rd characteristic you will find in resilient individuals and organizations. Some resilient people don't give up on life. They tend to think of creative ways to improve on or cope with their situations. And this involves making the most of what they have. For instance, a housewife whose husband ran from home, leaving her alone with the kids, may have to start a vocation or small business to support herself and the kids. This may mean going to learn a new skill to make herself more marketable. Tough times never last, but tough people do. Robert H. Schuller. Chapter 2. Building Resilience Through Mindfulness. It's rare for life to hit us with more than one terrible blow at once. But if we learn to deal with the stress we encounter daily, then we can live happier and more productive lives. Practicing mindfulness on a regular basis will improve your mental toughness and overall brain performance. On average, experts recommend that you engage in mindfulness for 20 to 30 minutes daily. Some people don't like the idea of mindfulness and meditation because they dislike the idea of sitting in uncomfortable and sometimes weird yoga positions. But the position doesn't really count. You can take any position you like, just make sure you're comfortable. You can do this at home, in the office, or literally anywhere. For starters, find a chair to sit on. Make sure your back is up straight and relaxed. You can close your eyes to avoid unnecessary physical distractions. Next step is to focus on your breath. Pay attention to your inhalation and exhalation. Don't try to judge your breath. Just pay attention to every stroke of breath you take in and breathe out. Don't change your rhythm either. Just be mindful. Consider every thought and image as distractions and keep yourself from being engaged by them. Do this for 20 to 30 minutes. Did you know? The duration may appear too long when you first begin, but be patient and you will soon get used to it. Chapter 3. Build resilience by increasing your positivity currency. Oftentimes, we don't take our personal resilience as seriously as we treat corporate resilience. Anyone who has ever run a successful company will tell you that they have systems in place to ensure their company runs smoothly. In other words, they have resilience measures. Do you have a personal resilience system you use on yourself regularly? Many people don't, and that's why we're often buffeted by circumstances we could have otherwise sailed through. This particular chapter was authored by David Coppens. He introduced a concept called positivity currency and described it as a sum of all the things you do and experience that keep you positive. This is based on the backdrop that the more positive we are, the more our chances are of surviving tough times. One way to boost your positivity currency is by expressing gratitude for the wonderful things that have happened or are happening in your life. A second way is to pay attention only to thoughts, associations, and events that make you more positive. This might mean, for instance, getting out of a negative and abusive relationship, putting an end to self-condemnation, and forgiving yourself for all the things you did wrong. Thirdly, keep a journal of positive things. You could use a leather-bound jotter or its digital equivalent. Divide the journal into different categories. Example, family, friends, work, etc., for ease of documentation. The fourth thing you can do to increase your positivity currency is to help people around you become more excited about life. A famous 2014 experiment conducted by Facebook's data scientists and published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States of America suggests that you will be happier and more positive if your news feed skews positivity. This is so true, and it doesn't just happen online. If your spouse, kids, roommates, or neighbors are happy and positive, the same thing will rub off on you. Similarly, it's difficult to be resilient when everyone around you isn't. Did you know? A good way to stay positive is to read biographies of people who achieved great feats despite all odds. You'd be inspired for sure. Chapter 4. How to become a better feedback receiver. Almost everyone subordinate will cringe at the thought of receiving feedback from their superiors. In fact, there's research that shows a good number of people decided to become self-employed because of this single dread. Those of us working under someone know how it feels like to be evaluated. There's always emotion involved, and if care is not taken, the relationship between the feedback giver and receiver may be tainted. Truth be told, some feedback is meant to positively correct the receiver and help them grow, while a few others are plainly destructive. But whatever the case, the receiver has the power to choose how they react. You could get negative feedback that isn't true. There are a number of reasons for this. Example, the giver may be incompetent in that area. But what you do with that feedback is what really matters. You can choose to take the untrue feedback personally, simply discard it, or take it in, filter and sort out the good advice you can use to work on yourself. Did you know? The recent Statista Trend Compass found that 79% of executives expected contingent and freelance workers to substantially replace full-time employees in the coming years. Chapter 5. Keys for becoming a better feedback receiver. Understand that all feedback is given for improvement. You may not like the communication methods and channels, but try to overlook those things and focus on improving yourself. Below are 4 keys for becoming a better receiver. Know your tendencies. If you've been receiving feedback for some time, you will identify a pattern in your reaction to it. What are your average tendencies? Do you accept everything the giver says and think it through later? Do you strike back immediately, or do you defend yourself on the facts? Know your tendencies so you will figure out how best to control yourself. Separate the what from the who. When the relationship trigger is activated, we tend to judge feedback by the giver, the manner in which it was delivered, the timing, and the channel. But the more you learn to separate all that from the content of the feedback, the better for you. Focus your energy on analyzing only the content of the feedback you receive and overlook every other factor. Sort toward coaching. Some feedback is evaluative. Example, your rating is a 5, while others are instructive. Example, add the chemical before titrating. Everyone needs both because the evaluative feedback shows you where you stand on the chart, while the instructive ones reveal what is expected of you. When in doubt as to whether a feedback is instructive or evaluative, the tendency is to assume our talents and past performances are being judged, evaluative feedback, and this will always make us pull away. A good trick is to take every feedback as instructive unless stated otherwise. Ask for one thing. If you don't wait until the time your organization gives its annual feedback before requesting one, then chances are you won't be hurt by the feedback you get. In other words, request feedback from your boss and coworkers on your own, and do it often. Here's a little warning. Don't do it vaguely. Ask for only one thing. For instance, you could ask, what is that one thing you think I'm doing or not doing that is keeping me from achieving my goals? Did you know? Active listening means to focus completely on what you're hearing, not even distracting yourself with thoughts of how you would reply. This skill makes you a better feedback receiver. Chapter 6. How leaders can bounce back after a major loss. It's always devastating to fall after attaining great heights. Business and political leaders experience this devastation when they're fired from their leadership positions or when they lose in polls. Not many CEOs, for example, are able to rebound after being fired from their organizations. Some even end their lives months after the incident. But we have seen some leaders, both in the present and in history, who return to public fame after such terrible experiences. Two good examples include former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, who lost the re-election to Ronald Reagan in 1980 and was devastated because he couldn't continue with the global projects he had started in his first tenure. But he later renounced and created the Carter Center, which served as a launchpad for his mission in international conflict resolutions. The second example is Jamie Dimon, who lost his job as president of Citigroup after working in the organization for 16 years, but renounced and later became the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase. The first step to take after such an experience is to protect your reputation. This is especially true in the business world. Often, the public isn't told why the leaders get fired, so anything can be assumed. You don't want this to happen. Make sure you clear your reputation no matter what. Do not receive any amount of money meant to shut your mouth, because in the long run, the money will finish and you will need your reputation for a comeback. Take their money and shut up only when you have no comeback plans. Take a brief break to regain yourself if you really need it, but after that, put yourself together. Make use of the human and other resources at your disposal to get back on your feet. Most importantly, engage the principles of resilience discussed in the previous chapters. Conclusion. All things being equal, we would all have to rebound or reinvent ourselves at one point or another in our lives. The reason many find it difficult to get back quickly is that they didn't build resilience when things were fine. As you already know, you don't prepare for battle during battle. You prepare before it begins. The Spartans knew this very well, and that's why they were not easily defeated. We too can learn from them. Start preparing your mind today. Start now. Fill your mind with positivity on a daily basis. Have a dream, a vision for your life that you can risk anything to achieve, and most importantly, have a strong why. These ingredients would strengthen your resilience quotient. Here's an example. Jack's life goal is to build businesses that would create opportunities for his family and a few other people around the world to achieve financial freedom doing what they love. He wants to create remote job opportunities all over the world. That's his little quota to poverty alleviation. And his strong why, the reason he's doing all this, is so his kids won't experience poverty as he did when he was homeless on the streets of New York for 8 years. Jack is now married to the love of his life, and they have 2 lovely kids. Do you think he would give up simply because a business he started failed? Not a chance. Are you beginning to see why you need a vision and a strong why? Try this. If you're yet to do so, identify your typical response to feedback. To do this, just let your mind go back in time to the last 2 to 3 feedbacks you received from your boss. Understanding your typical feedback response will aid in processing the feedback you will be receiving in the future.
Okay, you guys, so that's it. We finished the book. It was a really, really good book. Build resilience. Okay, so just make sure to develop that skill because it's very, very important, right? Especially in the corporate world and in the business field, whatever industry you're in. So, thank you so much, guys. See you soon.